It was just past midnight when he got into my Uber. Nothing unusual about that. I'd been driving the late shift for 3 years, picking up everyone from partygoers to insomniacs needing a grocery run. This guy looked ordinary enough. Mid-50s, wearing a wrinkled business suit, clutching a manila envelope like his life depended on it. He slid into the back seat without saying hello, which wasn't uncommon either. Some passengers prefer silence, especially at this hour. I glanced at my phone, expecting the usual address notification, but nothing came through. "Where to?" I asked, adjusting my rearview mirror to get a better look at him. That's when he said it. Those words that would haunt me for weeks afterward. "Don't ask, just follow that car." He pointed through the windshield at a black sedan pulling away from the curb about 50 yards ahead. His voice carried an urgency that made my hands tighten on the steering wheel. I'd heard stories from other drivers about passengers making strange requests, but this was my first. The sedan's taillights glowed red in the darkness as it turned left onto 5th Street. My passenger leaned forward, his breath fogging the partition. "Stay back, but don't lose them," he whispered. As I shifted into drive and began following at a distance, I caught a glimpse of the sedan's license plate under a streetlight. My blood turned to ice. I recognized those numbers. They belonged to someone I never expected to see again, someone whose disappearance had torn my family apart 15 years ago. If you're enjoying this mystery, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. My sister Sarah had vanished on a Tuesday evening in 2009. She'd been working late at her accounting firm, or so we thought. The police found her car abandoned near the harbour, keys still in the ignition, purse untouched on the passenger seat. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, no leads that went anywhere meaningful. The license plate I'd just seen, 7GGX492, had been burned into my memory because it appeared in one grainy security camera photo from that night. A black sedan parked outside Sarah's office building, captured just minutes before she was last seen leaving. The police had traced it to a rental company, but the trail went cold when they discovered it had been rented using fake identification. Now, 15 years later, I was following that same car through the empty streets of downtown. My passenger remained silent, occasionally giving terse directions. "Left here," or "slow down." The manila envelope never left his grip, and I noticed his knuckles were white with tension. The sedan turned into an industrial district I rarely visited, even during my daytime drives. Warehouses and loading docks stretched along both sides of the street, most of them dark and seemingly abandoned. A few security lights cast long shadows between the buildings, creating a maze of light and darkness. My mind raced with questions I couldn't voice. Who was this man in my back seat? How did he know to follow this particular car? And most importantly, was I about to discover what had really happened to Sarah all those years ago? The sedan's brake lights flashed as it slowed near a warehouse, with a faded, consolidated shipping sign hanging askew above the entrance. "Pull over here," my passenger instructed, pointing to a spot behind a cluster of dumpsters about 100 yards from where the sedan had stopped. I killed the engine and headlights, leaving us in near-complete darkness except for the distant glow of a single security lamp. The man in my back seat finally looked up from his envelope, and I got my first clear view of his face in the rearview mirror. Deep lines etched around tired eyes, a scar running along his left jawline, and something else, a look of profound guilt mixed with determination. He reminded me of someone, though I couldn't place where I'd seen him before. "You're wondering why I chose your car tonight," he said quietly, as if reading my thoughts. "It wasn't random. I've been watching, waiting for the right moment, the right person." His words sent a chill down my spine. Had he been stalking me, planning this encounter? The sedan's driver door opened and a figure emerged. Even from this distance, I could see it was a woman with shoulder-length dark hair, moving with purpose toward the warehouse entrance. She produced a key and disappeared inside, leaving the building's exterior as quiet and empty as before. My passenger opened his envelope and pulled out what appeared to be photographs. In the dim light, I could make out faces, documents, and what looked like newspaper clippings. "Your sister Sarah," he said suddenly, causing my heart to nearly stop. "She didn't disappear by accident. And that woman who just went into the warehouse, she's the reason Sarah never came home." "How do you know about Sarah?" The words tumbled out before I could stop them. My hands were shaking now, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles ached. 15 years of wondering, of sleepless nights and unanswered questions, and now this stranger was claiming to have answers. He leaned forward close enough that I could smell coffee and cigarettes on his breath. Because I was there that night. I was part of it. The confession hit me like a physical blow. My name is Marcus Webb, and I worked for the same firm that employed your sister. Not as an accountant, as someone who cleaned up problems. The photographs he'd shown me earlier were clearer now, as he held them up to catch the security lights glow. Sarah's face stared back at me from what looked like a surveillance photo taken outside her office building. Other images showed financial documents, bank statements, and transfers of large sums of money. Sarah discovered something she wasn't supposed to see. Marcus continued. Our firm was laundering money for some very dangerous people. She'd been asking questions, staying late to review files that should have been off limits. When she threatened to go to the FBI, they decided she was too much of a risk. A light flickered on inside the warehouse, visible through a high window. The woman was moving around inside, apparently searching for something. Marcus checked his watch and cursed under his breath. We don't have much time. She comes here once a month to retrieve updated instructions and payment. Tonight's the night I finally make this right. They told me Sarah would just be relocated, Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible. New identity, new life, somewhere safe where she couldn't cause trouble. I was supposed to make sure she got in that car willingly, convince her that her life was in danger and we were helping her escape. I turned in my seat to face him directly, anger rising in my chest. But that's not what happened, is it? The question came out as more of an accusation. This man had been involved in my sister's disappearance, had probably been the last person to see her alive. Marcus shook his head, his eyes fixed on the warehouse. I believed them at first. For months I thought Sarah was living somewhere under a new name, maybe even grateful for the fresh start. But then I started noticing things, inconsistencies in the stories, other people who had disappeared under similar circumstances, none of whom were ever heard from again. The woman inside the warehouse moved past another window, carrying what looked like a briefcase. She was methodical, efficient, someone who had done this routine many times before. Marcus raised a small pair of binoculars I hadn't noticed before, tracking her movements with practiced precision. That's Victoria Chen, he said. She's the one who gave the orders that night. She's the one who decided Sarah knew too much to live. The hatred in his voice was palpable. For 15 years, she's been coming here to collect payment for services rendered. Tonight, I'm going to get proof of what really happened, and then we're both going to make sure she pays for what she did. Marcus pulled out a small recording device and checked its battery level. I've been planning this for 2 years, he explained, tracking her movements, learning her schedule, gathering evidence. She thinks she's untouchable, that enough time has passed for everyone to forget about Sarah and the others. The others. The phrase hit me like a sledgehammer. How many? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. My sister hadn't been the only victim of whatever conspiracy this was. How many families had spent years wondering, hoping, grieving without closure? 17 that I know of, Marcus replied grimly. All people who stumbled onto information they shouldn't have seen. Accountants, clerks, even a janitor who noticed too many late-night meetings. Victoria specialized in making problems disappear permanently while making it look like they'd simply chosen to vanish. Victoria emerged from the warehouse carrying the briefcase and something else, a thick manila envelope similar to the one Marcus had been clutching. She walked to her car but didn't get in immediately. Instead, she pulled out a phone and made a call, pacing back and forth as she spoke. She's reporting in, Marcus said, adjusting the focus on his binoculars. Every month, same routine. She collects her payment and instructions, then calls her handler to confirm the pickup. But tonight's going to be different. He reached into his jacket and pulled out what looked like a small pistol. Tonight, she's going to tell us exactly where Sarah is buried, and then we're going to make sure justice finally gets served. Wait, I said, grabbing Marcus's arm as he reached for the door handle. You can't just walk up there with a gun. If she really is as dangerous as you say, she's probably armed too. And if something goes wrong, we'll never find out what happened to Sarah. Marcus paused, his hand still on the door. Then what do you suggest? I've been watching her for 2 years. And this is the only time she's vulnerable, the only place where she's alone and isolated enough for us to get answers. I thought quickly, my mind racing through possibilities. "Let me go first," I said finally. "I'm just an Uber driver who got lost looking for an address. If she's as professional as you say, she won't see me as a threat. I can get close enough to start recording while you position yourself as backup." Victoria finished her phone call and leaned against her car, checking something in the briefcase. She seemed relaxed, confident, completely unaware that anyone was watching her. The monthly routine had made her complacent, and that might be our only advantage. Marcus considered my proposal, then handed me a small wireless microphone. "This connects to my recording device," he explained. "Get her talking about the old days, about the firm, about people who used to cause problems. Don't mention Sarah's name unless she brings it up first. We need her to incriminate herself without realizing what's happening." I clipped the microphone inside my jacket and took a deep breath. 15 years of questions were about to be answered, one way or another. I stepped out of the car and began walking toward the warehouse, my footsteps echoing off the empty buildings. Victoria looked up as I approached, her expression shifting from relaxation to alert wariness in an instant. "Excuse me?" I called out, trying to sound confused and slightly embarrassed. "I'm looking for 1247 Industrial Way. My GPS seems to have died, and I've got a passenger who needs to get to some kind of late-night meeting." I gestured vaguely back toward my car, where Marcus was hopefully well hidden in the shadows. Victoria's eyes narrowed as she studied me. Even in the dim light, I could see she was older than she'd appeared from a distance, probably in her early 60s, with silver threading through her dark hair. But her posture remained alert, coiled like someone who'd spent years looking over her shoulder. "You're lost," she said flatly. It wasn't a question. "This area doesn't have residential addresses. Industrial Way runs north-south about 2 miles from here." She pointed in a direction that would take me away from the warehouse district entirely. I nodded gratefully, playing the part of the confused driver. "Thanks, I really appreciate it. You know how it is with these late-night rides. People get into your car with the strangest requests, wanting to go to places you've never heard of." I took a step closer, noting how her hand moved almost imperceptibly toward her purse. "Strange requests," she repeated, and something in her tone made my skin crawl. "Yes, I imagine you hear all sorts of interesting stories in your line of work. People confessing things they probably shouldn't, talking about mistakes they've made, problems they wish would just disappear." The way she emphasized the last word sent chills down my spine. This woman was definitely not someone who made casual conversation with lost drivers. "Oh, you have no idea," I replied, forcing a laugh that I hoped sounded natural. "Just last week I had this guy who kept talking about some woman he used to work with. Said she'd gotten herself into trouble by asking too many questions about the company's finances. Kept going on about how she should have minded her own business." Victoria's entire demeanor changed. Her casual stance shifted to something more predatory, and I realized I might have pushed too hard, too fast. "What kind of trouble?" she asked, her voice taking on a dangerous edge. "And what happened to this woman who asked too many questions?" My heart was pounding so loudly, I was sure she could hear it. He never said exactly, just kept muttering about how some problems have a way of solving themselves, you know. People who stick their noses where they don't belong sometimes find themselves in situations they can't handle. She took a step toward me, and I noticed her hand was now fully inside her purse. "This passenger of yours, did he mention any names? Any specific details about this woman or the company she worked for?" Her questions were sharp, focused, like an interrogation. I shrugged, trying to maintain the facade of a disinterested driver. "Something about an accounting firm, I think. And the woman's name started with an S. Sandra, maybe, or Sarah." The moment her name left my lips, Victoria's expression went completely cold. I had just confirmed her worst suspicions, and I was standing alone in a deserted warehouse district with a woman who had made 17 people disappear. "Sarah," Victoria repeated slowly, her hand now clearly gripping something inside her purse. "Sarah Mitchell, perhaps? The accountant who worked for Hartwell and Associates 15 years ago." She was no longer pretending this was a casual conversation between strangers. I tried to look confused, as if the name meant nothing to me. Maybe that was it. Like I said, I don't really pay attention to passenger chatter. People say all kinds of things when they think the driver isn't listening. But even as I spoke, I could see she wasn't buying my act anymore. You know what I think? Victoria said, taking another step closer. I think you're not here by accident. I think someone sent you to ask questions about things that happened a long time ago, things that are better left buried. The threat in her voice was unmistakable now. From somewhere behind me, I heard the soft sound of footsteps on gravel. Marcus was moving into position, but I needed to keep Victoria talking, needed to get her to admit what she'd done before this confrontation turned violent. Look, lady, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to find an address so I can drop off my passenger and go home. Victoria pulled her hand from her purse, revealing a small but deadly-looking pistol. Your passenger, she said with a cold smile. Why don't you call him over here? I'd like to meet the person who's been asking questions about Sarah Mitchell. Because you see, I remember Sarah very well. She was a problem that required a permanent solution, and I'm very good at providing those kinds of solutions. Marcus Webb, Victoria called out toward my car, her gun now pointed directly at my chest. I know you're out there. You've been sniffing around my business for months, asking questions, following me. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Marcus emerged from behind the dumpsters, his own weapon drawn but not yet aimed. Hello, Victoria. It's been a long time since that night at the office. His voice was steady, but I could see the tension in his shoulders as he slowly approached. Not long enough, she replied. You were supposed to disappear after the Sarah Mitchell job. The fact that you're still alive means you've become a loose end, and I don't like loose ends. She kept her gun trained on me while watching Marcus from the corner of her eye. Marcus stopped about 10 feet away from us. I know about all of them, Victoria. Sarah, David Chen, Maria Santos, the janitor whose name I never learned. 17 people who trusted the wrong person, asked the wrong questions, saw the wrong documents. Victoria laughed, a sound devoid of warmth or humor. 17? Oh, Marcus, you really have no idea how extensive my work has been. Those were just the ones from Hartwell and Associates. I've been providing solutions for various clients for over 20 years. Your sister, she said, looking directly at me, was simply another name on a very long list. The casual way she spoke about Sarah's death, as if it were just another business transaction, filled me with rage. But I forced myself to stay calm, to keep listening. Marcus's recording device was capturing every word, building the case that would finally bring justice for Sarah and all the others. Tell him what really happened, Marcus demanded, his gun now raised and pointed at Victoria. Tell him how you convinced Sarah to get in that car, what you promised her, where you took her. Victoria's smile widened, and I realized she was actually enjoying this moment. Sarah was so naive, so trusting. When I told her that her investigation had put her in danger, that people were planning to hurt her, she believed every word. She practically ran to that car, grateful that someone was trying to save her. My hands clenched into fists as she continued. We drove her to a cabin upstate, told her she'd need to stay hidden for a few days while we sorted out the threat. She was actually thanking us as we walked her inside. Victoria's voice took on a mocking tone. Right up until the end, she believed we were the good guys. Where is she buried? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The question I'd been carrying for 15 years finally had someone who could answer it. Victoria tilted her head, considering. Buried? Who said anything about burial? That's so permanent, so traceable. No, Sarah and the others were disposed of much more efficiently. There's an industrial furnace about 50 miles north of here that runs 24 hours a day, processing waste from several manufacturing plants. The words hit me like physical blows. No grave to visit, no remains to lay to rest, no closure for our family. Sarah had simply been erased, as if she'd never existed at all. Marcus's face had gone pale, and I could see his hand trembling slightly as he kept his weapon trained on Victoria. You're wondering how I sleep at night, Victoria continued, seeming to relish our horror. The truth is, I sleep very well. Each of those people made a choice to interfere with things that didn't concern them. Sarah could have simply done her job, processed the numbers she was given, and gone home to her family every night. Marcus stepped closer, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. She was trying to stop money laundering, trying to prevent criminals from funding more crimes. She was doing the right thing. The right thing. Victoria scoffed. The right thing was staying in her lane and not asking questions about accounts that were clearly marked as confidential. But Sarah was stubborn, idealistic. She actually thought she could take down an entire network of very powerful people with her little spreadsheets and bank statements. I found my voice again, though it came out hoarse with emotion. She had a daughter. Emma was only 8 years old when Sarah disappeared. She's 23 now, and she still wonders if her mother is coming home someday. For the first time, Victoria's expression flickered with something that might have been discomfort. "Children are resilient," she said finally. "Emma probably barely remembers her mother by now. She's better off not knowing the truth about what happened." The callousness of her words broke something inside me. This woman had destroyed not just Sarah's life, but the lives of everyone who loved her. Emma had grown up without her mother. Our parents had died still hoping for answers, and I had spent 15 years blaming myself for not protecting my little sister. Hartwell and Associates was just one client, Victoria continued, apparently deciding that since we'd found her, she might as well enjoy bragging about her work. I provided services for law firms, accounting companies, even a few government agencies. Anyone who had problems that needed permanent solutions. Marcus kept his gun steady while pulling out his phone with his free hand. "Names, Victoria. I want names of everyone you worked for, everyone who hired you to kill innocent people." She laughed again. "You think this is some kind of confession booth? That I'm going to give you a complete client list so you can play hero?" Her expression hardened. "The only reason I'm talking at all is because neither of you is leaving here alive tonight." I felt a chill run down my spine. We'd been so focused on getting answers that we hadn't fully considered how this confrontation would end. Victoria was right. She couldn't let us walk away with the information we'd gathered. But Marcus seemed to have anticipated this. "I'm not the only one who knows about tonight," he said calmly. "If I don't check in by 3 a.m., copies of everything I've collected over the past 2 years get sent to the FBI, the State Attorney General, and 3 different newspapers. Your entire network gets exposed." Victoria's confident demeanor wavered slightly. "You're bluffing. If you had that kind of evidence, you would have used it already instead of playing these games in warehouse districts." Marcus smiled grimly. "I needed your confession to tie it all together. The financial records, the surveillance photos, the connection between the disappearances, it was all circumstantial until tonight. But now I have you on tape admitting to multiple murders, describing your methods, even giving details about the disposal site." The 3 of us stood in the pool of security light, weapons drawn, each calculating our next move. Victoria's confidence was cracking, but that made her more dangerous, not less. A cornered predator with nothing left to lose was unpredictable. "Even if you have recordings," Victoria said, "you'll never prove the connections to my clients. They're all protected by layers of legitimate businesses and legal barriers. At best, you'll get me, and someone else will take over my work within a week." Marcus nodded grimly. "Maybe so, but at least Sarah's family will know what happened to her. At least the other families will have answers. And maybe, just maybe, some of your clients will decide the heat isn't worth it and find legal ways to solve their problems." I realized this had never been about bringing down the entire network for Marcus. It had been about redemption, about making amends for his role in Sarah's death. He'd known from the beginning that he might not survive this confrontation, but he'd been willing to risk everything to give the families closure. Victoria must have reached the same conclusion because her stance shifted slightly, preparing to fire. "Touching as this all is, I have other appointments tonight. Marcus, you should have stayed hidden. And you," she looked at me, "should have minded your own business just like your sister should have." The mention of Sarah in that context, the casual dismissal of her life and death, pushed me over the edge. Without thinking, I lunged forward, not toward Victoria's gun, but toward the briefcase she'd dropped when she drew her weapon. If it contained payment and instructions like Marcus had said, it might have evidence of other planned murders. My sudden movement caught Victoria off guard. She spun toward me, her gun tracking my motion, but Marcus used the distraction to close the distance between them. The sound of gunshots echoed off the warehouse walls, 2 quick pops that seemed impossibly loud in the stillness of the industrial district. I hit the ground hard, The briefcase clutched against my chest, expecting to feel the burn of a bullet wound. Instead, I heard Victoria cry out in pain, and the metallic clatter of her gun skittering across the asphalt. Marcus had managed to shoot her in the wrist, disarming her, but not fatally wounding her. "Stay down," Marcus shouted to me as Victoria clutched her injured hand, blood seeping between her fingers. She was cursing in what sounded like 3 different languages, her professional composure finally completely shattered. I opened the briefcase with shaking hands. Inside were bundles of cash, several cell phones, and a thick folder containing what appeared to be dossiers on various individuals. Photographs, addresses, personal information, and in some cases, detailed plans for making specific people disappear. Victoria hadn't been exaggerating about the scope of her work. Marcus kept his gun trained on Victoria while pulling out zip ties from his jacket pocket. "These files," I called out, flipping through the dossiers. "There are at least a dozen people on her current target list. We need to warn them, get them into protective custody." Victoria laughed bitterly despite her pain. "You think stopping me changes anything? There are others who do what I do, and my clients will just hire them instead. You've accomplished nothing except ensuring that more people will die because of your interference." As I continued examining the contents of Victoria's briefcase, one name in the dossiers made me freeze. Emma Mitchell, Sarah's daughter. There was a recent photograph of her leaving what appeared to be a law office, along with notes about her daily routine, her apartment address, and her work schedule. "Marcus," I said, my voice tight with fear. "Emma's in here. Sarah's daughter is on Victoria's target list." I held up the file so he could see the photograph. Emma looked so much like Sarah had at that age. The same dark hair, the same determined expression. Victoria's laughter became more pronounced, despite her injury. "Smart girl, just like her mother. Emma's been asking questions about Hartwell and Associates, trying to find out what really happened to Sarah. She even hired a private investigator last month." My blood ran cold. Emma had never stopped looking for her mother, and now her search had put her in the same danger that had killed Sarah 15 years ago. "She doesn't know anything," I protested. "She's just a daughter trying to find out what happened to her mother." "She knows enough," Victoria replied. "The private investigator she hired has been very thorough. Too thorough. He's uncovered connections that were supposed to stay buried, and Emma has copies of everything he's found." She smiled despite her pain. "She was supposed to have an accident next week. Very tragic. Young woman falls down the stairs in her apartment building." Marcus's face had gone pale. "How many others are there? How many people are going to die because they asked questions about their missing family members?" Victoria gestured toward the briefcase with her uninjured hand. "See for yourself. I had contracts on 12 people this month alone. Brothers, sisters, children, even a few spouses who never stopped believing their loved ones were still alive somewhere." I spread the remaining files across the ground, using my phone's flashlight to read the details. Each dossier represented someone whose search for truth had marked them for death. A brother in Phoenix who'd been investigating his sister's disappearance from an environmental consulting firm. A wife in Seattle whose husband had vanished after discovering irregularities in his law firm's trust accounts. "All these people," I whispered. "They're just looking for their families, trying to get answers. How is that worth killing for?" Marcus secured Victoria's hands behind her back with the zip ties, though she didn't resist much due to her injured wrist. "Because the truth is worth billions of dollars to her clients," he explained. "Every person who disappears represents millions in laundered money, illegal transactions, or criminal activities that stay hidden." Victoria leaned against her car, her professional mask completely gone now. "You want to know the real truth. Most of these missing people stumbled onto things by accident. They weren't crusaders or heroes. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, saw the wrong document, overheard the wrong conversation. I thought about Sarah, working late at the office, probably just trying to make sure the numbers added up correctly. She hadn't set out to uncover a money laundering operation or bring down criminals. She'd just been doing her job with the thoroughness and integrity that had always defined her. But once they knew something," Victoria continued, "they became liabilities. And my clients don't tolerate liabilities. It's nothing personal. It's just business." The casual way she spoke about murder as if it were no different from any other professional service made my stomach turn. Marcus checked his watch. It was nearly 2 a.m. "We need to get this information to the authorities now," he said. "If Victoria doesn't report in on schedule, her handlers might accelerate the timeline for these other targets." I was already dialing 911 while continuing to photograph the contents of each file with my phone. "We need to warn Emma first," I said. "If they're planning to kill her next week, they might move faster if they suspect Victoria's been compromised." Victoria struggled to sit up straighter despite her restraints. "You're wasting your time. Even if you warn all 12 targets, even if you get them into witness protection, my clients will just wait. They're very patient, and they have long memories." The 911 operator answered, and I quickly explained that we'd apprehended someone involved in multiple murders and needed immediate police and FBI response. The operator seemed skeptical until I started reading names from the missing persons files, names that apparently matched open cases in their system. Marcus was using his phone to photograph the financial documents we'd found, creating backups of everything in case something happened to the physical evidence. "There are account numbers here from banks in 7 different countries," he said. "Transaction records going back 20 years. This isn't just about the murders. It's about the entire money laundering operation." I could hear sirens in the distance, still several minutes away but getting closer. Victoria heard them too, and her expression shifted to something almost like resignation. "You think you've won," she said quietly, "but this is just one small piece of a much larger puzzle. The people I work for have resources you can't imagine." The first police car arrived within minutes, followed quickly by 3 more and an ambulance. The officers approached cautiously, weapons drawn, until Marcus and I identified ourselves and explained the situation. Victoria remained silent as the paramedics treated her wounded wrist, her professional demeanor returning as she calculated her legal options. Detective Sarah Rodriguez took charge of the scene, and I couldn't help but notice the irony of her name. She listened intently as Marcus and I explained how we'd ended up in the warehouse district, what Victoria had confessed to, and the significance of the files we'd discovered. "These recordings," Detective Rodriguez said, examining Marcus's equipment, "they'll be crucial evidence, but we'll need to verify their authenticity. The confession alone might not be enough to prosecute for murders that happened years ago without physical evidence." I handed over the photographs I'd taken of all the files. "What about the people on her current target list?" "Emma Mitchell and the others. They need protection immediately." The detective nodded and began making calls to coordinate with FBI field offices in other cities. Victoria finally spoke as they loaded her into the ambulance. "Detective Rodriguez," she called out, "you might want to check your own department's files. Some of your missing persons cases have been closed for reasons that had nothing to do with good police work." The implication was clear. Victoria's network had connections within law enforcement as well. The detective's expression darkened, but she didn't respond to Victoria's taunt. Instead, she turned back to Marcus and me. "We're going to need detailed statements from both of you, and you'll likely be in protective custody until we can assess the full scope of this organization." Over the following days, the investigation expanded rapidly. Victoria's files led to raids on offices in 6 states, the arrest of 12 individuals connected to the money laundering operation, and the discovery of financial records that implicated dozens more. The scope of the criminal network was even larger than Marcus had suspected. Emma Mitchell was placed in protective custody immediately, along with the 11 other potential victims. Margaret's house stood in darkness when we arrived, but Robert's car was parked in the driveway. Through the living room window, I could see shadows moving, 2 figures in what appeared to be an intense conversation. Robert sat hunched forward in an armchair while Margaret paced back and forth, her hands gesturing frantically. Vincent's breathing became shallow as we watched from across the street. "She's telling him," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "After all these years, she's finally telling him the truth." I could see the pain etched across his weathered face, decades of regret and longing crystallizing in this single moment. The front door suddenly burst open and Robert stormed out. Even from our distance, his fury was palpable, his movements sharp and aggressive as he slammed his car door. The engine roared to life, and he backed out of the driveway with reckless speed. Vincent gripped my shoulder. "Follow him, please." As we pursued Robert through the quiet suburban streets, I couldn't help but think about the chain of events we'd set in motion. A simple ride request had evolved into something far more complex, a family's carefully constructed facade crumbling in real time. The weight of witnessing such raw, private anguish pressed down on me. Robert's car turned toward the industrial district, his erratic driving suggesting a man grappling with earth-shattering revelations. Vincent stared ahead with the expression of someone watching his worst fears materialize, knowing that whatever happened next would determine whether his family could ever heal from decades of buried truth. Robert's car came to an abrupt stop outside an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The area was desolate, lit only by scattered streetlights that cast long, ominous shadows across the cracked pavement. He sat in his vehicle for several minutes, his silhouette motionless against the dim glow of his dashboard. Vincent watched his son with the intensity of a man witnessing a potential tragedy. "This is where he comes when he's troubled," he explained quietly. Even as a boy, Robert would disappear to empty places when the world became too much. I used to find him in abandoned buildings, construction sites, anywhere he could be alone with his thoughts. When Robert finally emerged from his car, his movements were deliberate but unsteady. He walked toward the warehouse entrance, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his mother's confession. Vincent opened my passenger door before I could stop him. "I have to go to him now. This ends tonight, one way or another." I watched as Vincent crossed the empty lot, his figure small against the imposing structure. The years seemed to fall away from his gait. No longer the frail old man who'd entered my cab hours ago, but a father determined to face the consequences of his choices. The distance between them represented more than physical space. It was 30 years of missed conversations, unspoken apologies, and love that had never found its voice. The warehouse door stood slightly ajar, and Vincent paused at the threshold. Whatever happened in the next few minutes would either destroy what remained of their relationship or begin the long process of rebuilding it on a foundation of truth rather than carefully maintained lies. Inside the warehouse, Robert sat on a stack of old pallets, his head buried in his hands. The cavernous space amplified every sound. Vincent's footsteps echoed like gunshots as he approached his son. When Robert finally looked up, his face was streaked with tears, the composed businessman replaced by a broken man grappling with his shattered understanding of his own life. 30 years, Robert's voice cracked as he spoke. 30 years I believed you abandoned us because we weren't enough, because I wasn't enough. Vincent stopped several feet away, respecting the invisible barrier that grief and anger had erected between them. "Mom told me everything, about the gambling debts, the threats, how you left to protect us." Vincent's own tears began to flow as he listened to his son's anguish. "I thought I was being noble," he whispered. "I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you and your mother safe. But I was a coward, Robert. I was too ashamed to fight for our family, too proud to ask for help." The admission hung in the air between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. "Do you know what it's like to spend your entire adult life believing your father didn't love you enough to stay?" Robert's question pierced the silence. "Do you know how that shapes a man, how it poisons every relationship, every moment of self-doubt?" Vincent took a tentative step forward, his hands trembling with the desire to comfort his son. The warehouse seemed to hold its breath as 2 generations of pain finally found their voice. Outside, I waited in my cab, understanding that some moments are too sacred for witnesses, yet knowing that my role in bringing them together had been essential to this reckoning. The reunion lasted nearly 2 hours. When Vincent and Robert finally emerged from the warehouse, they walked side by side, not touching but no longer separated by the chasm of misunderstanding that had defined their relationship. Robert's face showed the exhaustion that comes after intense emotional release, while Vincent appeared somehow lighter, as if a burden he'd carried for 3 decades had finally been lifted. They spoke quietly as they approached my cab, their conversation too private for me to overhear. Robert shook my hand through the window, his grip firm and grateful. "Thank you," he said simply, but his eyes conveyed depths of meaning that words couldn't capture. He would follow us back to Margaret's house in his own car, The first time in 30 years that father and son would enter that home together. The drive back was contemplative, filled with Vincent's quiet reflections on the evening's events. "I don't expect forgiveness to come easily," he told me. "There's too much lost time, too much hurt. But tonight, for the first time in decades, I have hope that we might find our way back to being a family." His voice carried a peace I hadn't heard before, the serenity of a man who had finally faced his deepest regrets. As we pulled into Margaret's driveway, I realized that my role as an unwitting participant in this family drama was coming to an end. What had begun as a simple fare had evolved into something profound, a reminder that sometimes the most important journeys aren't about reaching a destination, but about finding the courage to confront the truths we've been running from. If this story moved you, please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Sometimes the most ordinary moments can lead to extraordinary revelations, and your own experiences might inspire others who need to hear that it's never too late to heal old wounds and rebuild broken relationships.